Hello and welcome to Inspire Me Today Radio. I'm your host, Gail Lynne Goodwin. I just spent the last hour in a session with a new luminary. I was so impressed by her knowledge, her skill, but most of all, her heart. This special woman does what she calls soul-level transformation. What's that? Stay tuned. We'll get right to it. But in the meantime, I really want to introduce you to this special lady. Her name is Tambra Harck. Tambra is a spiritual mentor and a speaker, and the author of a book called Sacred Truths, An Unveiled Path to an Abundance of Joy, Meaning, and Love. She specializes in helping women create a balance between their ambition, their vision, their drive, and their creative, collaborative, and spiritual approach to life. She guides women entrepreneurs through soul-level transformation so that they can experience more joy, wealth, and love in their lives. I am so honored, not only for the pleasure of the last hour, but also to welcome Tambra today to Inspire Me Today Radio, here to talk today about soul-level transformation. Tambra, thank you for joining us, and welcome to Inspire Me Today Radio.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here, Gail.
Well, I really love that you were gracious enough to offer me the last hour, and I got to tell you, it was very insightful for me. You know, for somebody who deals with a lot of inspiration and day in and day out, I did this more as a courtesy, and it ended up being a huge gift to me. So thank you for that. So for those that, think you're on track, wow, this lady can kind of put you back on track when you didn't even know you were off track. But I want to go a little bit deeper, Tambra, into who you are as a person. Tell us a little in your own words. What do you do?
What do I do? I think that the best way I know to describe it is the way that I describe my purpose, my soul's divine purpose, which is to say that I show people how to end the pain of separation from the separation of their soul. And
Wow.
In that, show them how to continually do that for themselves, so that we're no longer living in a place of mediocrity, no longer living in that I'm just kind of along my life for the ride, coasting along, sure, I'm great. But no, we're living vital, awake, dynamic, exciting, passionate, creative lives. And the how I do that depends on whether it's with an audience or a private client or a small group, but really the how I do that depends on who is before me, because I let their soul be my guide.
How did you get into this? I mean, this is something, did you just wake up one day at 5 years old and say, I want to be a soul-level transformation coach? I mean, tell us a little bit about the process of how you got where you are.
Oh, gosh. I think that I was born a spiritual teacher, and then it took decades to grow into the comfort of even being able to say that. I mean, many, many decades. And at the age of 8, I became an entrepreneur for the first time. I got mistletoe. My dad cut down some mistletoe from a tree in the backyard, and I wrapped it with that curly red ribbon and put it in little baggies and went around to the neighborhood selling it door to door. And
how awesome.
I know, really funny, right? And, when I think about it now, what a perfect combination of tasks, right? Because here I was in starting my first endeavor in business, but I was also spreading love, because mistletoe is the, little symbol of, okay, kiss me now. And the heart of my work is really that we are all fundamentally connected to and full-on expressions of love. And so when I think that was my first business endeavor, of course this would be the way that I finally came to grips with being a spiritual mentor. There's no training method that I know of that's the right one for everybody. What it was for me is continually following my own guidance to do my work, feel the pull of my own soul, like that pull, that like a magnetic draw that keeps saying, come this way, come this way.
That's awesome.
And,
but you were smart enough to listen and to follow it.
I was courageous enough to follow it. I was, and still am. I think that it's an ever-expanding path of courageousness.
Well, being an entrepreneur, I certainly understand that. Let me ask, have you always been an entrepreneur, or have you ever had a part of your life that you've actually, had a 9-to-5 kind of job and worked for someone else?
On the rare occasion where I worked in someone else's company, I was still entrepreneurial inside it. I ran a department or,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's been a part of who you are. You've been stepping off the ledge since you were 8.
Yeah.
Doing those crazy kind of things. I mean, the reason I'm asking that, Tambra, is there are so many of our listeners that write to us and they'll say, I have this passion and I have this dream and I just don't know how to make it happen, and I've had this for 17 years and I've never done anything about it. Talk a little bit about that to those that have a dream but are just a little bit too scared to take whatever steps are necessary to bring it to fruition.
Mm. Well, I think the little bit too scared is probably a nice way of putting it. They're probably usually a way bit too scared. And the thing that I would first of all say is, if there's something that you keep coming back to, if there's an idea for a product or a service or something that will create betterment in the lives of others, and you can see that there are people who will benefit from it, then know that anything you do that stops it from happening, you're stopping the beauty, you're stopping the love, you're stopping the creation. You're in your fear letting your power, your grace, your beauty stop being expressed. A more clear way to say that, I mean, that's a big statement. So I'm really turning the heat up. I'm saying, if there's something that you feel passionate about, then turn the heat up on yourself and realize that not doing it is actually a really detrimental act, not just to others, but to you.
I actually take that even once. I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. And just launching Inspire Me Today was something that was a big risk for me, one of those jump off the ledge kind of moments. But I also looked at it as, I know the difference that inspiration made in my life, and I wanted to share it with others. And I almost felt that it was selfish of me not to do it. Because it's like, how can you have this information and not share it freely and willingly with those that need it?
Yes.
And so I guess I question, and it really made me go inside to that soul level and really do some searching of, if I don't do this, then what? You know, many times if you look at the world of, I have this dream, I want to bring this dream to fruition, and you can visualize and you can see, what will that look like when it happens? But I guess I'd ask you to go one step further and say, what will the world look like if you don't do that dream? Because it's usually not a pretty picture, not just for you, but for the world in general. And it makes me wonder, you know, what if Helen Keller or Henry Ford or some of the people that have really made monumental contributions to the way we live our life today had not followed their dream?
Absolutely.
So it makes me wonder, who's waiting for you to follow yours?
And here's the thing, we can't know.
Exactly.
We can't really know.
That's the beauty of it.
Yes. I had the great pleasure about a year ago of talking to an author named Greg Lavoie. He wrote a book called Callings. Loved this book. Went and found him so that I could interview him. I was just enthralled with him. And when I was promoting that I was interviewing him, I got a tweet from somebody saying, I can't believe you're going to have Greg Lavoie on the show. I haven't heard his name in years. The book was well over 10 years old, so it's not like a mainstream, everybody's got it kind of book. And I got a private email then from this woman who had tweeted me, telling me a story about her brother who had been living with HIV/AIDS and was reading this book by Greg Lavoie called Callings. And he was reading the book while he was committed to his own health and his own healing. And he would read it aloud to his sister, and he would say, do you think I have a calling? And years later, he let that book guide him to taking these huge leaps. This is so aligned with what I know about you, Gail. He now has some affiliation with a small country, I can't remember right now what it is, a small country in Africa, where he has gone there and spoken to the whole assembly. He's been broadcast to the 1 million people who live in that country, of talking about I get goosebumps just thinking about it. There's no way Greg knew that was a possibility when he wrote that book.
Exactly.
There's no way. He just followed his heart and his commitment to sharing the message.
That's awesome. Well, for everyone out there listening, I think that's pretty clear. Whatever that dream, that passion, that burning desire is within you, I think you're hearing from Tambra and from me both. Go do it. We're waiting for you. Who knows what will come out of that? And again, Tambra, this stuff sounds easy. It looks easy. And people could actually look at your life and say, oh, she's, this gorgeous, successful, wealthy woman, and go on and on and on with their story of who you are and how easy it was for you. But my life is difficult. You know what I'm talking about. We all have that part of us. And it makes me wonder, I'm guessing that you two are human and that you two have also experienced a little bit of fear and adversity along the way. How do you deal with it?
Two ways. One is that, first, I do want to say, we all have suffered something that we think of as adversity. And I am not unlike every other person. Here's what makes me different is that today I know that love is one energy with limitless expressions and that I am a gift of love. I know that to be true. And I know that joy is something that's innately experienced in my nature, as it is in yours and in every single person in the world. And the only reason we don't feel love and don't experience joy is that we are doing something that keeps us from the experience. I now know that, but if you had told me that, and in the joyous ways that I usually speak about it, because now I'm speaking about it rather firmly, because this is where I am in the last couple of weeks, I'm really riled up about not letting the thing stop us. So usually I speak about love and joy in a way that just says, it really is you and of you, and get there, it's here, it's right now. I didn't always know that. I remember years ago, a friend of mine had been to some business conference, and after she came back from the conference, and she was just all in the excitement of the conference, and she had discovered that, she actually had the experience of joy. And I remember saying to her on the phone that day, this was maybe 15 years ago, I remember saying to her, really?
Yeah, see how long that'll last.
Really? Is it really that important? I mean, when I say it now, and I know that those were words that came out of my own heart, because I was so frightened of feeling how much I do love, that I couldn't even allow her to experience the joy she felt.
Wow.
So here's what I would say to you if you think, oh, that person out there, they've got it all. They've got the house or the car or the husband or the best kids or the education or the health or the body or the whatever the thing is that you could point to. Or they know God as, their own connection. Like whatever the thing is you point to and you say, they're separate from me. What I'd first of all say is that however you're seeing them as separate from you, that's how you hold yourself separate from your own vision. So if I look out there and I say, but that woman has all the resources imaginable, then, and I can't have it because I don't have those resources, then I've got to then turn that looking glass back in and say, how am I rejecting that I too have all the resources imaginable?
Okay, take that one step further. You're going to have people listening that are going to say, well, it's obvious how I don't have those resources. She has a rich paying job and I don't. I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent this month.
Oh, we're going to go right there, are we?
Yeah, well, seriously, there are a lot of people, Tambra, right now that are that come to Inspire Me Today because they're dealing with things that frighten them. And one of the things I really want to help them understand is that fear is an illusion.
Yes.
And that's really what I'd love to have you talk about, as far as there are folks that have written me wonderful, heartfelt cries for help is, I guess, the easiest way I can put it. Just saying, how do I go to work every day knowing that I hate my job when I'm not following my dream, and just because I'm too frightened. And I guess my whole reason for loving interviewing people like you is you are held up on a pedestal by so many people as one of the gurus that gets it. And it's nice to know that you've had times in your life that you too have been afraid.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I've been afraid. And I've hit the wall in ways that I now know make me capable of being able to help people when they feel like they've hit the wall. So the first thing I would say, and I'm happy to tell you the story about hitting my own wall, and if that helps, but really what I would say to answer the question that you asked of, so if you're struggling, if you're saying, but I don't have the resources, I'm going to give you two tips right off the top of my head that I know absolutely change everything. And one is stop complaining. And I mean it like you are allergic to complaining. If you complain, you're going to break out in hives kind of thing. Like you will not let yourself complain. And what I'm going to tell you right now is you're going to be bad at this practice for a really long time because we are so conditioned to complain about our circumstances and about how we are less than, or somebody else has got it better than us, or they got, they made me, do it, and all that kind of complaining. And you're going to notice it in ways you never knew you could even think about that being complaining. Just stop complaining. And if you catch yourself doing it, notice it. Say, wow, I just did it again. Okay, I'm starting again right now. Because if you start saying, see, I'm even bad at complaint, like now you're complaining about complaining. So put yourself on an absolutely, I am allergic to complaining diet.
Excellent. Good advice. What's the second one?
The second one is find anything and everything moment to moment that you can be grateful for. Yeah. And I know that gratitude is important for you, Gail. So you jump in here with your sister.
Cornerstone of my life. I think
and
if you
mean grateful.
Yeah, I agree. Grateful. And again, there is always something in every moment to be grateful for. If you're listening to this and you think this recording sucks, you know what? You're grateful that you've got the ears to listen to it. Be grateful. Find whatever it is around you and treasure it, celebrate it, be grateful for it, because what you focus on grows. So why not focus on gratitude? And have more good things come your way. Now, I happen to have been poking around your website, and so I cheated just a little bit here, Tambra. I know that stop complaining and start showing gratitude is a big one for you, but I also know that you also talk about stop blaming yourself and be compassionate instead. Talk to us a little bit about that one.
Yeah. So compassion is one of the qualities of the heart. For those of you who are listening, if you are familiar at all with the chakra system, the heart center is the heart, is the center. It's the center chakra, and it's radiated around where your physical heart is. So it does all the same kinds of things that your heart does. It pumps vitality through your body and through your energy field. And one of the qualities of the heart, certainly we all know it's love, right? That's one of the qualities of the heart. Another is compassion. And the reason that I love talking about compassion for us, for ourselves, is that we can get on that road of even when you've been doing the personal development, like you've been on it, you're reading the books and you're taking care of like learning how to be accountable. And a lot of times it's really tricky to not, it's so tempting to use the things you learn about personal development and then use them as ammo against yourself. And I am so fed up with that, that if I could do nothing else but put a stop to that kind of behavior, I think my life will have served a great purpose. So I want to encourage you to stop looking for how are you wrong? How were you at fault? How are you regretting? How are you shaming yourself? All those are ways that you do things that blame. And then if you're doing it about other people where you're blaming, I don't know, what do people blame for? I have to pay my taxes. Why did they get, I have to pay them before but I have all this other stuff to pay. And, they don't even fix the roads right. And now you're blaming that you have taxes to pay because you live in the free world. That the blaming, instead, could you look to having compassion for that you have compassion for your experience of having the limitation, of even thinking that there might not be enough money. Have compassion for those who are making the decisions about where that money gets directed. Have compassion for that you have desire that lives in your heart that you don't always honor and live fully. Have compassion for that someone else that is near you might be having a hard time and they don't even show it, but somehow you're just knowing that they could use actually a hand on the shoulder and a look of appreciation. Compassion.
Great advice. I can feel it. I did the same thing. I don't know. for those of you that are listening to this, Tambra and I are on Skype, so we can see each other, which is really cool. I love this.
It is.
We're going to have to figure out the technology that you can watch the video of both of us, even though I'm sitting here on my bouncy ball with sweats on, but hey, what the heck. Anyway, I really appreciate, Tambra, the fact that you're sharing these things. I mean, it just makes such a difference. You inspire so many people. And it makes me want to ask you, since obviously our website is called Inspire Me Today, who or what inspires you?
Oh, who or what inspires me today? You know, when I wrote my book last year, I could feel how vulnerable it was to write a book. And I found that I had such appreciation for every author, whether I've read them or not, who has ever taken the courageous stance of taking words, putting them in print, and being willing to put them out in the world. I am inspired by the courageous act of publishing. I am just like amazed by that. And there are many people who've written books who have really touched and inspired me, some of who are alive, some who are not. A couple that have really touched my life deeply are Thomas More, who is still alive, and whom I'd love to meet. Carl Jung, who is one of the fathers of psychology, but really of a new wave of spirituality. That's what I love about him. In real life, not in my imaginary life, I kind of know these people, but in the people who are really around me, my beloved Michael inspires me. When I see how cut to the chase he is about being able to see what he appreciates about somebody and just says it. Like, it's just like, there's no like fluff, no dancing around it. He just is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great to surround ourselves with people that support us in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I felt like I cut you off. Were you going to
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on with people that I admire and who I'm inspired by. I think Oprah is one of the most inspirational people on the planet today. Tom Shadyac, who just did a new film called I Am that I'm going to see tonight. I'm pretty inspired by the people who are willing to engage in conversation that's outside of what maybe the normal conversation is or the popular conversation, and are willing to put their actions behind that. Big love.
Big love. You can't beat that. Well, speaking of big love, you seem to live your entire life from such a place of an open heart and from a place of love. And it makes me want to ask you, for those, again, that are listening, do you have specific steps or practices, rituals, so to speak, that you do each and every day that keep that heart open and that keep you on track?
I definitely do. You know, I only in the last 10 years or so just realized that I have lived most of my life with the belief that I was essentially unlovable. And even to say it, I feel a little bit of sorrow in my heart to know the pain that is. The coming into love, and to even recognizing that I'd had that belief, I had to be on the other side of it before I realized that I had lived my life from there. The practices that I engage today and have been for probably the last 15 years that are really grounded in bringing love into my being. One is actually one I love to share with people we could do right now is the breath of love. And it's so great and it's so easy, and you could do it whether you're standing in line at the bank or you're feeding your kids or you're meditating. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You can even do this before you go have a great conversation. So the first thing is you bring your attention to your inhale, and you imagine that as you inhale, that breath that comes into your body is love. And as you exhale, the air that escapes from your body is love. So bringing your attention first to the breath that's inhaling, imagining, seeing, sensing, and feeling that love comes in through the molecules of air. And they fill your lungs, and these molecules of love move out through and into the membrane of your body, into your bones, into your bloodstream. And they reach and touch and love and caress any place that's in sorrow or pain or disease or discomfort or fear. And then as you exhale, I love that we can shift this in any direction. We can simply exhale and imagine that out through the ripples of your breath moves love. And that knowing that just as if you were to drop a pebble into a pond, that those ripples move out, your breath moves out through love in the air, and it goes wherever it will serve. Wherever it will serve.
That's beautiful. Wow.
And you can do this in a moment, right? So one inhale love, exhale love. Ah.
My whole body feels like mush right now, just like a happy mush, but you know what I mean? It's just so relaxing that all the cares in the world seem to not matter anymore.
Mm-hmm. And
That's
I
lovely.
imagine that if we do this before we do the things that we feel we need fierce love for. So, if we're going to end hunger, if we're going to end the atrocities that happen on this planet, whether it's in poverty or abuses or destructive behaviors, like whatever it is, if we're going to end those things and we go out to stop those with a fight, now we're just participating in another fight. What if you start by the breath of love and then see where the inspiration awakens in you to approach the change with love?
That's a beautiful, beautiful way of putting it. I really
I'm
like that.
so inspired.
I know I am. No, I mean, that is a great one. I mean, just think about in our day-to-day lives. I had a coaching client just yesterday that was really trying to get himself psyched up to go into a confrontational situation where he had to sit down and have a very difficult situation with someone. And we use something similar to this, but this is something that I will absolutely share with him as well, in that when you go in from that place of acceptance and that place of love and that place of letting it flow where it needs to flow. Mm-hmm. How can I be of service? Everything shifts.
Everything shifts. Yeah.
That's just beautiful. Well,
and
I'm
it's a
delighted.
Two-way street. That's the thing I love about the breath of love, is because you're loving yourself first, and then you have love to give.
Well, isn't that kind of funny how when we take care of ourselves first and fill up our cup first, it's not selfish. It's actually self-sustaining as well as life-sustaining, because then Absolutely. We're able to be better for the rest of the world.
I have something really juicy about selfishness. Can I share you that?
Oh, please.
So we all know about the story of Narcissus, right? The boy who loved himself so much he died. That's not actually the story.
Do tell.
I have studied the many versions of the story, and I'm working on a book about love in which I am going to be sharing this, but I want to share it with everybody today. So one of the things that happened when Narcissus was a young boy, when he was newborn, his mother went to an oracle, and the oracle said this boy will live a long life as long as he never knows himself. As long as he never knows himself. So if you think about the know thyself is the call to spirituality, that know thyself, right? Know thy high self, know the truth of who you really are as a spark of divinity. Like that. So essentially he was told if he ever came to know himself, he would not live a long and healthy life. So it was predestined that he would never come into the exploration of love, of knowing oneself as we do. It's a complete twist on what we know this myth to be. The other thing is that he didn't know when he was looking in the reflection in the pond that was him. He wasn't in love with himself. He was in love with beauty being reflected to him. He didn't know that's what he saw. Wow.
That kind of changes the entire context of that original myth, doesn't it?
It does. Now, I'm not talking about narcissism as a psychological condition,
right?
But as the story of, Narcissus, and how we have this thing about if you look at yourself and you see your own beauty, that you're being selfish. No, you're not. You're honoring the divine that lives in you, that you could see your own beauty.
And that's something I hope we all can do.
I do too.
Well, your breath meditation certainly is a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
Tambra, I'm sure you talk more about this and more in your book, Sacred Truths: An Unveiling Path to Abundance, Joy, Meaning, and Love. Wow, I look forward to reading that. Now, where can our listeners find out more about you and find out more about your book and your work?
The best place to find any and all of that is at my primary website, and it's tambraharck.com. Needs a little spelling because I have two unusual names. So Tambra, T-A-M-B-R-A, and my last name is Harck.com. So tambraharck.com.
Perfect. And for anyone that's listening to this as a downloaded MP3 file on your MP3 player at the gym or while you're driving, don't worry about it. Just come on back to Inspire Me Today. Just remember Tambra, put in her name in the Luminary search, and all the links to her wonderful information will be provided there for you. So you can just listen to it and check out her inspiration a level deeper. I really appreciate you taking the time, Tambra, to share with us today, and for the insights that you've already given. I have to ask you, though, if you were to wrap up the brilliance of who you are, the wisdom of however many years you've had, and just into a minute or two, what would you really want to make sure that people hear and take to heart?
What I would say is this. There is a spark of vitality that lives in you, that only you can ignite, and only you can express in the world. If you don't do it, it never gets realized. When you feel desire, that kind of desire that when you feel it, it makes you a little nervous, but you know that it's the expression of your own soul, or it's like God whispering to you, that is exactly what's happening, is that life wants you to live that desire. It wants you to bring your radiant self into life. Approach it with courage. Feed the flame. Nourish yourself. And bring your gifts to share with the rest of us. Not because we need it, but because it's important for you to come alive.
Wow. I didn't even want to say anything. That was such a brilliant answer. Oh, yeah, exactly. I feel like I was just hugged from the inside out. So thank you for that.
Thanks for asking.
Great wisdom. I love it. Well, I so love my, quote, job, if you know what I mean. I love being able to talk to amazing people that truly inspire me, and you're right up there on the top of my list. I have to ask you, though, Tambra, this is a question I've had the honor and the privilege to ask every one of our luminaries, from our youngest is 6 and our oldest is 104.
Wow.
So here's the question. If you
I'm the average.
There you go. If you had just one more thing that you could accomplish in your lifetime, what would that be?
Accomplish. You know, there's one thing that I want to experience that I didn't even know was possible. So I don't know if it's accomplished.
That'll work.
I want to swim with whales.
I'll go with you.
Yeah. I have a friend who I've never met in person. He's in Singapore, I think, and he leads these journeys in different parts of the world. But every now and then he takes a really small group of like 4 or 5 people on a trip to swim with humpback whales. And I want to do that.
All right, we're going to put that on the top of our bucket list, and we'll talk about that offline. But I'm down for that one in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Wow. No, I've had the privilege of swimming with dolphins, but never with whales. So that would be pretty magnificent.
Yeah. Imagine.
Wow.
I had a dream about 7 years ago where whales came to the edge of the ocean to dance on their tails for me, to tell me that my nature was joy. And I never had that perspective before. And when I heard you could actually swim with whales, I thought, oh my God, I have to do that.
I want to bring my video camera and capture those whales dancing with you. What a beautiful vision. Well, thank you, Tambra. From my heart to yours, and from all of those listening here to Inspire Me Today, thank you for taking the time to share your walk of life with us. It's just wonderful to be able to share the kind of insight that you gave. And I think my number one takeaway that I will take away from the last 2 hours that I've spent with you is very easy. It's love. Breathe it in, breathe it out, and watch where it goes. Follow those ripples and make sure those ripples are really happy, loving ripples that you put out into the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that, and for all of the insights that I personally got in the first hour of our conversation. I'll keep
welcome.
you posted on that. But if any of the listeners are at a place that you might be a little bit stuck or not even realize that you're stuck, it might be worth a phone call to this lovely lady and let her help take... It's not that she tells you anything. She just asks the right questions that makes those voices inside you go, oh, what about this? And it's things that I'd never thought of that just came from a simple, loving, supportive conversation. So thank you, Tambra.
My great pleasure. Thank you, Gail.
Excellent. And to those of you listening, thanks again for joining us today. We appreciate the fact that you're spending part of your day with us. Come on back again next week. We'll bring you inspiration from yet another incredible inspirational luminary. And until then, remember, it's only when you have the courage to step off the ledge that you'll realize you've had wings all along. We love you. We're here for you. Stop back again tomorrow for some more inspiration, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks again for stopping by.